first speaker today will be Spencer Weaver, a close friend of mine who has motivated me to live intentionally and pushed me to consider deeply my motivations and gifts. So let's listen today as Spencer speaks to us on pursuing excellence.
We all desire to be great. We all want our lives to count. And we all desire excellence. But we may feel like we are only penguins. We see the eagles soaring in the sky and the lions roaming on the plains, and all we can do is waddle. But even though all we can do is waddle, we may believe that if we work hard enough, we could fly. I'm sorry, penguins still cannot fly. That was an April Fool's video that BBC put together. So, regardless of how we wish that with enough work we could rebel against our natures, there are some abilities that are built in, that are innate, that we need to follow. Penguins cannot fly, and they need to realize that they can swim and dive. And that is what they are called to do well. Today we will look at how excellence is found in first realizing that God has gifts and talents that He's given us and requires something of us for those gifts. And we will secondly look at how we discover these gifts by exploring the world and paying attention to things that energize us and come natural. And thirdly, we will look at how to pursue these gifts with serving others, stepping out in faith, and living an intentional life. First, gifts as a responsibility. In order to think about gifts as a responsibility, we can think of the parable of the talents, in which a master goes on a long journey and gives 5 talents to his first servant, 2 to the second, and 1 to the third. After he returns from his journey, he finds that the first 2 have doubled their talents, having 10 and 4, and the first one has buried his talent, or the third one has buried his talent. He expected the people with the talents to bring an increase. And we see that with the first one, or the third one, being thrown into outer darkness when he returned. So God expects us to use the talents that He has given us, and He has given all of us talents that we are to use. But maybe you're a penguin with 2 talents, and you wish you had 5 talents, like the eagle. God expects you to use the 2 talents you have to swim and dive, and He expects more of the eagle who has 5. But God never expects you to do things that He has not gifted you to achieve. Now that we know God has given us gifts, and we accept the responsibility, how do we go about discovering these gifts? First, Arthur Miller and William Hendricks wrote the book, Why You Can't Be Anything You Want to Be. And in that book, they explore how to discover our gifts. They say, people express their giftedness for the same reason that hawks keep flying, and whales keep spouting, and beavers keep damming up streams. It is their nature. They know no other. Like animals, we have a nature that is God-given. And we may feel like finding our life calling is like walking a tightrope from one point to another without trying to fall off. But it's not like that. It's more looking at a whole array of mountains and discovering which mountain is for you to climb. When you discover that mountain that fits you, you can pave a creative path to the top. And a key to a passionate life is finding the right mountain for you and that God intends for you. So how do we find this correct mountain? First, we need to pay attention to things that come natural. Just like some animals run faster than others, and some can climb trees better, we all have natures that are gifted in different areas. Some of us may be good with words, and another may be good with numbers. Whatever your gifting is, pay attention to those. God may be saying something with the giftings that He has given you and things that come natural. The second thing we need to pay attention to are those things that energize. Some of us thoroughly enjoy activities that others find boring, and vice versa. God gave you a nature to enjoy those environments and activities for a reason. Pay attention to those things that bring you energy and you feel like you could do them all day without being tired. As we put these together, we need to realize that God is to run this or guide this process as well. And Miller and Hendricks again say, God most definitely can and will guide us through a growing understanding of our individual, God-given design and giftedness. So as you're paying attention to these things that come natural and energize, look for God's guidance as well. He cares that just as much as you, if not more, that you discover these things that He intends for you to do with your life. So now that we have an idea of how to explore and what to pay attention to, we need to look at how it is our responsibility to pursue these gifts and what it requires of us. The first thing I'm going to suggest that we need to do in following God is following in faith. Following faith means we allow room for failure. God does not promise that everything will work out, but He does promise that He will be there with us through the process. Initially, when we branch out and start pursuing gifts that we think we may have or activities that we enjoy, we may experience failure. But we need to push through and excel because God has probably given us these desires for a reason. Allowing room for failure also means that we practice a detached intensity, which means we pursue whatever activity we feel called to do with all we have while leaving the results up to God. If we leave the results up to God, failure will not impact our self-image and our self-perception. And we will be able to push through failure, realizing that God has given us these desires again for a reason. Second, we need to seek to serve. As we explore talents that we may have and giftings, it is easy to become self-focused or even use the talents that we have for our own benefit and neglect others. We need to realize that talents, as Os Guinness says in The Call, that God normally calls us along the line of our giftedness. But the purpose of giftedness is stewardship and service, not selfishness. If you think back to the talents, they were called and expected to increase their talents, but not use them on for their own benefit. In the same way, we need to view our talents for the glory of God and the benefit of others. And if we do this, we will be able to avoid pride and cultivate humility. Second, we need to be intentional. Being intentional means we practice until we master our skills. We seek feedback from those that have already succeeded in our task. Ask them to give us input. How could we improve? And we also are highly demanding of ourselves. We look for constant improvement. We look for how we can do things better. And we give it our all. Here we have a 3-step process to pursue excellence that God desires. Let's review. First, we need to meet responsibility. God requires us to use our talents well and to bring an increase. He also asks us to discover. So explore the world. Try things until you discover something that fits, until you find your right mountain. Pursue. Give it your all. Practice intentionally And don't be scared to fail. And do it for the glory of God. By following this path, you can attain the excellence God intends for your life. Thank you.